What's going on, everybody? John Eric Poli here with my MMA news, and today's guest just defeated Chase Hooper by a first-round TKO at UFC Vegas 64. Pleased today to be joined by Steve Garcia. Steve, thanks for doing this, man. Appreciate the time, and congrats on the win.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, man, no problem at all. So let's get right into things here, talking about this big win. So you come into this fight, right? You're 1-2 in the UFC. You make the decision to drop down to 145 pounds. You get booked against a guy who really is a fan favorite to many of the UFC fans. Just talk about how good it felt to go out and get a win going into like everything that went into this upcoming fight, from the move down to the hard work to really, in a way, you could say silencing the doubters when you go against a fan favorite like that.
I'm a fan of him too. So like it was not like I was like pumped about the matchup because obviously how much clout he had or how much like UFC's kind of pushing him, how much they're behind him. And I'm like, well, this is not going to be a good day for him, but I'm going to capitalize on it. Um, and at the end of the day, the only people thought that I was gonna win are the people that are around me and that we're training with. You know what I mean? So I love having those people because they knew who I am, and I know who I am as long as I go out there and I fight. You know what I mean? And do me. If I do me, that's me every day. But you know what? Uh, I'm not trying to really go crazy on that stuff. I just want to go out there and have the best performances. I want to showcase my abilities, but I want the fans to just really enjoy it, man. I really do. Like I said, I'm a fan of Chase Hooper as well. I think that he has a ton of potential, and I think that I'm hoping he learns from this because, um, man, kid's good. Kid's good. He needs to kind of work on some of his stand up. I think that but my stand up and his stand up are on two different levels, and I'm not saying that it's just the writing on the wall. I think that and by the time he's 28, 29, I mean he fixes those holes in his game, man, he's gonna be a beast.
And I do want to ask you about that whole stand-up mismatch up, but we'll get into that in just a little bit here. I do want to ask one other thing before we get into like exact X's and O's with the fight, and that is the move down to 145 pounds. Just talk about the decision as to why you made the drop down the weight class, and how did it feel? Because a lot of times fighters going down a weight class, fighters will say that obviously it sucks. You have to go through a bit of a harder weight cut. The diet's got to be more disciplined, but other ones will say that they don't mind it at all. So it's how did the whole weight cut process go? And just talk about the decision to go down to 145 pounds.
Yeah, there's many different things. If people have been following me for a while, I've been majority of my career is at 135. So I started developing like some health issues. There's a whole spiel about that, but I ended up going to 145, fought there a couple times, and then that was hard for me. And I was like, I don't know what's going on here. Like, this is not okay. And so I went to the doctor. We figured out we had some issues to take care of. I get into the UFC at 155. I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to do that. So, I mean, I'm kind of just learning as I go along how to compete with these 155ers. And I felt okay, man. It wasn't, terrible. I fought Pena, and that was the decision. And that was on a, 4 or 5 day notice. I fought Ontiveros. I beat him. But man, they definitely crack a lot harder. It's a little bit different. So on my last fight before Hooper, I fought Mahashate, and I had a really, really long camp. But to trim things up, pretty much when I went into that fight, I was obviously you step on the scale, we're 155 pounds. When I stepped into the cage, though, that next day, I was only 160 pounds. So I gained like 5 pounds back. It wasn't anything substantial. And most people that are in the sport, we cut quite a bit of weight, and then we're kind of back on this even playing field. It's kind of weird. And that was kind of more the decision to come down because I feel like my natural weight would be 145. It's definitely a little bit harder, but I am healthy enough to make it. So that's kind of the reason why.
Well, at least that experience at 155 really kind of paid itself out too to make you great at the 145-pound division now. Let's talk now some X's and O's behind this fight. You mentioned before that you thought you had the big advantage on the feet, and it obviously showed there. Just talk about that mismatch there a little bit. Like, did you know coming to this fight, like, hey, if I come out and I get my hands on him right from the get-go, that this is going to be a long night for him and it's really going to favor you?
Absolutely. I mean, like in the back, I told Wink, I was like, he's not taking me down. Like I don't care what it's gonna take. We're gonna keep in the center, and we're gonna control this fight. And there's just days where you just have your mind made up, and it happens. And one of those days, where you know, was it October 29th for me? So I'm blessed, man. I'm really really blessed. God's really like got me through so much craziness that we're able to come out there, we're able to perform, and everybody was able to hopefully enjoy the show.
And that hook was there for you all night long too. You kept landing it over and over again. I think I told you before we started the recording process here and came on air when we were talking off air. I don't think I've ever seen somebody's face turn purple ever in a fight there, but you kept landing that same hook right in that same spot. You had him really marked up there. Just talk about how that hook was there all night long. Was that something that you saw in film that you realized that was going to be there, or is that just one of those where you landed it and you were going to keep throwing it until he made an adjustment on it?
What like a lot of people don't know because I really don't say it, but besides the people around me, I watched a ton of Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz too, both southpaws, and Conor was landing big shots with that over that top hand, and I felt like it was gonna suit this fight for me really well with the low calf kicks and the overhands coming over the top. It really kind of was like a cool little a blueprint that I could watch, kind of like have like that game plan a little bit, and then do me. So that was kind of what was kind of my driving factor. I was watching a lot of you know, his um his film and his fights, and he's developing more confidence in his striking, but it's just not there. And I wish, honestly, I really wish I could work with him because it's not anything disrespectful. I like the kid. I think that he could be really good. He kind of reminds me of me like back in the day. Um, and I want him to actually do well because the sport is cutthroat, it's brutal, and it's our house on the line. And I want him to just be successful, really. But that was kind of more my game plan going into this. Is he's a tall guy, and we're southpaw for southpaw, which don't happen very often, and that's kind of how things led to what happened.
Yeah, and Chase has a very bright future too in the UFC. It would be cool if you guys get to work together too, and you could help him out with a few things there. But one of the things that you said, I
Yeah,
found
he can help me out with the jiu-jitsu, so I'll take that.
it's an even trade-off then, 100%. But one of the things that I found interesting that you were saying was when you were watching Conor McGregor and Nate Diaz too, and it's funny. So like in other sports, and like we use football for example. Obviously, everybody can see behind me. I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan. They'll always use the analogies a lot of times in press conferences with coaches where they call it a copycat league because everybody's always watching each other's film and trying to pick up on different tendencies that different offenses and defenses do, incorporate into their game. In the sport of mixed martial arts, though, I've never heard anything like that. Usually, a lot of times, it's mostly you're just watching film on either yourself and things that you did right or wrong in a fight, or things on your opponent. I never heard of anybody watching somebody else's fight just to kind of be like a copycat type of a thing. There is this a common thing or no?
For me, it is. So like coming up, I honestly like I watched a lot of Dominic Cruz because back in the day we didn't have weight classes like in our training. So I'd fight big guys, little guys, it didn't matter, but most of them were bigger than me. So I liked the Dominic Cruz style at that point. And I watched how he did certain things, certain fights, and I just go out there and I try them and I mimic them. And that's how I developed that type of style like early on in my career. And then as we developed, like where we had lightweight classes and then we had heavyweight classes, then I wasn't running so much and I didn't need that as much. So footwork was good, all that stuff like that, but it wasn't as necessary. So then I was able to kind of look at different I like to look at the champions really because I want to know why they're champions. Like what did they do to get to that point? And I watched a lot of John Jones because obviously he was my former teammate, and I have a lot of respect for him. He's a good dude too, but um I just watch certain fights that like stick out to me that I feel like could benefit me, and this fight really, was almost like staring me at the face, like, dude, like this is a good idea to kind of watch a little bit. Obviously, like we do our own thing like in our gym, but um I just you do have those thoughts and they kind of click. And that was it for me.
All right, so I have one other thing I want to ask about this fight before we get into a few other things here. So obviously, right, we kind of took everybody through it. The fight wasn't super long. You were dominant, landing hook after hook. You knock him down 4 times before the referee eventually waves it off. At some point in that, I just assumed whatever blood was in there was coming from Chase. It wasn't until the post-fight interview when you were wiping your nose and you were apologizing because you had blood coming out. How did that happen? I didn't even realize that Chase even landed anything. Like, was there like a clash of heads or something? Like, what happened that led to the nosebleed?
Honestly, I really don't know. I there's two little things that kind of bothered me. I shouldn't even be complaining about it, but yeah, my nose was like bleeding. I don't know. Uh, I think he hit me with a couple spinning like back fists or something like that. So I think when he did the first one, I think he clipped my nose, and then the second one, he like I ducked it, but the elbow clipped the top of my head. So I had a little horn on my head for a minute, but I think that's what it was. But yeah, when you're in a firefight, we're just throwing. It just looks like I'm landing the bigger shot, so most of the attention is on me when I'm throwing that. But yeah, he was connecting a couple times, so like, it's a firefight. You're gonna get hit.
All right, so now I want to talk about post fight now. You had a photo on your Instagram. It looked like it was inside of an airport, but your family was all there for you when you got back into town at Albuquerque there. What was the emotions like after, we talked about it in the beginning, right? You were moving down a weight class. You were working really hard for this camp. It was a big matchup for you. You go out, you get the win. What was it like when you finally got to see everybody there cheering you on when you got back home?
Oh man, there's nothing like it. I was so surprised because I was texting my wife because typically, me and my dad just drive to the airport and then we drive, to my house and drop off my stuff and wherever, and that's just kind of how it normally goes. But she hadn't like texted me back right away, and I had actually 3 layovers, so it was kind of like weird because normally she texts me back, but she had this plot and she wanted to come and surprise me at the airport. Man, it was the best feeling, get to see my babies and my brother and his girlfriend and my niece there and my wife. And it was awesome. They're one of the biggest motivators that you can have. And man, after a long grueling camp, and a week, there's nothing other than there's nothing better than seeing your family, man. And those are the people that count. My wife holds it down for me, and they're the reason why I try to do my best. You know what I mean? And I go out there and I compete, and my wife doesn't even really like to watch my fights. You know what I mean? She just wants it to be over so that I can come back home. But man, it was just a great feeling.
And with all that being said, I'm sure I know the answer to this question I was going to ask you, right? With the $50,000 bonus for performance of the night bonus there. I usually ask the fighters, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to buy something nice, put it into the savings account? Obviously, you're a family man there, so I'm going to go ahead and guess that the family's going to be doing all right now with the extra bonus there. Is that what that money's going to go towards?
I like to say that having extra money is great. You know what I mean? But people I'm going to shine a little light on it, not a lot, but what people don't understand is that like the more money you make, the more money you pay, whether it's coaches, management, taxes, whatever the case is. So it looks like you brought in this massive amount of money, and it is. Like, I'm not saying that it's not. Just when people say like, oh, I got all this money, I'm like, oh, hold on a second. Like, if you are doing your job and the people you have around doing the job, you got to make sure that they're taken care of. So that's the one thing. Take care of your people, and just be smart with it. Like, don't go out there and just start blowing money. I'm not saying to kind of treat yourself. That's great. In a perfect world, if I didn't have to pay taxes and pay fees of any sort of thing, I would be buying me an RV tomorrow, and going on vacations with my family, trips and stuff like that. my kids are in a stage where it's kind of tough to kind of travel all the time. But I feel like if I had an RV, I could just be there with them, and we love to camp too, and fish and hunt and all that stuff. So um, that's still my future. I want to get one, but got to look at the books and see what's going on and make that decision. But yeah, man, I'm blessed for the money. I don't want to seem like I'm not. I just want shine a little light on that because you know you got responsibilities, and a lot of fighters get in trouble with not paying their taxes and stuff like that. It's incredible, and it's crazy because we don't think about that. But for anybody that watches this that are competing, what the case is, pay your taxes, pay your coaches, pay your management, whatever you got to do, and then just be smart with your money.
Yeah, it's funny. Even when it comes like the fighter pay and that type of stuff, I always try to tell everybody there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of moving parts that go into it. It's not just like a black and white type of a thing there. But anyway, one other thing, fight related, before we wrap things up, the obvious question that every fighter gets asked after a win: what's next?
I don't know, man. That was my last fight, so on my contract. So I don't know. I think my management's like looking into it. I'm not too sure. We'll see. What they offer, or if they even offer. I'm not too sure. I hope I did enough to hopefully keep my job. But at the end of the day, man, I'm good. I'm good. So we'll see. We'll see what they want to. If they want to sign me again, I'm about it. They just as like I said, I just leave it in God's hands at this point, because if I take over, anytime I take over, I mess it up, man. Like it doesn't work out. I don't know why, but I have full faith in what I believe in. That's kind of where I'm leaving that at.
And well, when you're going through these types of things, these contract negotiations and whatnot, do you just leave it up to the managers, or you in on the phone calls and all that? Like, how exactly does this process work? Because it's, again, a lot of things with a lot of moving parts, like we were just talking about before when it comes to the fighter pay. Same type of a setup when it comes to negotiating contracts. A lot of moving parts.
Yeah, I mean, I have one of the best managers in the game. I think his name is Jason House. We have a really good relationship. I talk to him, and we'll have conversations. He checks up on me. If we go into deeper conversations about contract stuff, I'll ask him, was like, is this a good deal? Is this not a good deal? And he'll be honest with me. So you kind of have to develop that type of relationship with the people that are managing your career. That's what they're doing, is that they're managing your career, trying to get you the right fights, trying to make sure that like you're getting, financial, gain from it. So that's kind of what happens. But yeah, we'll have conversations. He'll call me, I'll call him, we'll email too. And that's another thing, is that like my dude, he's literally like available 24/7. Like this guy's on the phone 24/7. So I feel bad, but man, I was like, he's great at his job, and he's worth every penny.
Yeah, Jason and the team there at Iridium, they do a lot of great work. Help a lot of fighters out. They have a great roster of fighters there too. So, with that being said, too, I was going to go ahead and tell you last thing before we head out: social media, where people know where to follow you at. If you have any sponsors, or like you just did with the management, you want to give the management another shout out there. Floor is yours. Take it away. Whoever you got to give plugs to, floor is yours.
Yeah, man. You guys want to follow me? Like, come check me out, guys. I'm on Instagram mainly. I have a Facebook, and I kind of have a TikTok too, but that's more private. But the Instagram is kind of where you're gonna see me. I'm on there. You can follow me at Mean Machine 505. You can follow me, follow my family. We do some things and stuff, and dude, I'm just a normal guy that likes to kick ass, dude. That's what it comes down to. There's nothing crazy. I'm a normal like everybody else, but I just do my thing, and I feel like everybody's giving gifts, and that's just a gift of mine, I guess. Uh, but I also want to thank, everybody else, on my fans, my family, my wife, my kids, everybody screaming at the TV when they're watching me. I love you guys. You guys are amazing. My sponsors, Brad Maestas, he's my chiropractor. He keeps me intact. All the UFC guys, they're great down there, and they help out a ton too. They're great, and at the end of the day, like I said, I'm a blessed man. God's first in my life, and I just always want to give him praise. So, you know, that's what it comes down to. Thank you for having me as well.
Steve, it was no problem at all, man. I really appreciate the time. Thanks so much for scheduling this interview with us, too. Really appreciate it. And good luck with the contract negotiations, too. It'd be nice to see you back inside of the octagon. Hopefully, we'll be able to see that here in the future. Anyway, guys, one last thing before I head out. Just want to thank everybody for watching today's interview. If you liked it, make sure to go to the bottom, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and keep going to MyMMANews.com, checking out all of our great work. Go to our social media pages, give us a like and a follow on there as well. We'll see you later, everybody.